This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. I'm not going to speak for her, but I'm going to kind of read her mind for a moment because based on our previous conversations, I think she'll agree with me on this. Having peace in your life is everything. And this is my personal experience, you don't know it's missing until you find it. And when you do, you turn around and you say, oh, that's what's going on there. How do you find that peace in your life? How do you make sure it's always there? We're going to talk about that today with a transformational speaker. She's a Reiki therapist, pastoral counselor, intuitive guide. She's an interfaith minister. She has so much insight on the stuff that is challenging us. Today, it may be peace. We're going to help you bring your peace back or even discover it for the first time with Clearday back on the program. How are you doing?
I'm great, Steve. How are you?
Really good. And this was a game changer in my journey. And I would go to church, not that I'm like super religious, but I'm long overdue. I haven't gone, I don't know, since last winter. But I remember going when I was younger and when I got older, and people would say, peace be with you, peace be with you, peace be with you. And I just, let me just follow the crowd. Yeah, and with you too. And also with you. I had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't even know what did I know about peace? Hey, peace, man. Yeah, two fingers up, peace. Until I figured out and felt it one day. Well, I finally have peace. I'm like, so we're going to dig into that today, how to protect your peace once you've found it. I'd be curious to hear your peace journey as well. When you first realized it, was it a game changer for you?
I know it must have been. I really can't remember it, but let's say yes to that.
Well, I guess that's a good thing because it sounds like it existed in your life for quite some time.
I think so. Long time ago. But not to say that I haven't had lots of challenges to my piece because I've had a ton of challenges to my piece and I still do.
Two words, hell yeah. And that's why we're here today. That's what we're going to talk about.
Right.
Maybe we should go back to last time we got together and talking about trauma, which can challenge your peace and how that may have changed our identities.
Okay, so we'll recap. Today is 24th episode. So last episode we explored how trauma changed your identity and it led you from your true nature, which is who you were meant to be, into your false nature. So the purpose of that episode was to recreate your life and recreate yourself by answering one very powerful question. Who are you if you aren't your wounds?
Mm.
And one of the key goals of this podcast series has been to help restore you to your true nature. So today we're going to explore how to combine everything that we've learned together in all 24 episodes of this podcast so far so that you can become experts at protecting your peace.
So the question that begs to be asked, what does it mean to protect your peace?
It means to stubbornly refuse to suffer because of something either you or someone else did to you that triggered your own insecurities, your unhappiness, your fears, your worries. And then I have to make a disclaimer, okay? So we're not talking about how you can avoid suffering if you have mistreated someone else, okay? In that case, you should try not to avoid suffering. Okay. You should actually embrace all of the negative feelings that are arising because they are trying to lead you to making amends. So, like, you should use the guilt, shame, regret to help you build that bridge back to someone else. This episode is only about being unwilling to suffer because of something you said or did to yourself, or because of something someone else said or did to you that was hurtful.
It's so interesting as you speak about that and how we're not talking about how you can avoid suffering if you've mistreated somebody else, but those who have mistreated us, excuse me, probably when we think about it, the list gets a little lengthy. And that's probably what challenged your peace in the first place, I would imagine, right?
I think that people hurt our feelings all the time. Sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's not. But also, I think it's even more fascinating that we hurt our own feelings all the time. So this is subconscious. We don't mean to, but think about the way that we speak to ourselves. If somebody else spoke to us that way, we'd want to smack them.
Hmm.
So why do we give ourselves full permission to treat ourselves in ways that are unacceptable and hurtful? And I'm going to answer my own question. The answer is that we have been programmed to suffer by our childhood trauma.
Hmm.
We bought into the fictional story of who we were that other people told us. We bought into that. We're going to call that our false narrative because, it wasn't even true. The truth is, we're almost always our own worst enemies, even when someone else is contributing. But the reason that we cause most of our own suffering is because we have learned to interpret our life through this wounded childhood filter. And we have discussed at length how these childhood trauma filters have changed us by skewing our perception and our perspectives. So, what was once our true nature slowly devolved into our false nature.
So I'm seeing this episode today in a very different way, in that when we say protecting our peace, we're protecting it from ourselves
And from other
mostly.
people. Yes,
Okay.
both.
Hmm.
It has to be both because we rob ourselves of peace
Sure.
as much or more often than other people rob us of peace. Um, so even when someone else says or does something terrible to us, the filter through which we see, which we're calling our false nature, that filter takes something bad and makes it even worse.
And I would imagine too, if it's somebody else who has stolen your peace by their actions or words, a lot of time you know it. But when it comes to that false narrative within us, where we're stealing our own peace and not realizing it, we're just that. We don't realize that we're doing it.
That is exactly right. And that is the key. So the key, would be to become more aware of when you're doing it to yourself. We already know when other people are doing it to us. And a lot of times we think other people are doing it to us, but actually we are doing it to ourselves because it's easy to blame and project other people for our own unhappiness.
Hmm. So where do we go from here?
Okay, well, I want to make another disclaimer. So while understanding this framework will help reduce suffering in any area, okay, this is not a judgment on the masses of people who are struggling and suffering with real world problems. So I want to give you some stats. ChatGPT estimates that there are 828 million people experiencing chronic hunger, 700 million people living in extreme poverty, 150 million people are homeless, and another 1.6 billion people lack adequate housing. 296 million people are struggling with substance use disorders. So life is hard. This whole podcast is about life authentically being hard, but why do we make it harder on ourselves? So, right now, it's estimated there are 8.1 billion people on this planet as of 2025. And I would say that most of them have been legitimately traumatized in ways that are likely to challenge healing, um, where healing could actually be rather difficult because healing is difficult. True healing takes a lot. I mean, it takes going outside of the realm of what's normal and pulling it towards yourself. But many of these people have been traumatized in ways that could be softened by looking at suffering through this framework. So, just an overview historically, we've been suffering from the lies other people told us about ourselves that we believed. So, what if suffering from these kind of problems can actually become optional?
Hmm. I never thought of it that, and we've discussed this many times, get into some nice depth about childhood traumas and the things that we experienced back in the day when we were kids and how it pilots what we do as adults. I never considered it as something that could be taking away your peace. I don't know why I didn't make that connection, but that's huge, huge.
Yeah, I think suffering is our human condition, and it it is the thief that steals our peace. In the middle of the night when we're sleeping, we wake up into it. We don't even know.
Why? And we're going to get into things that we can do to protect our peace, protect us from us, essentially. But why do we ride in that suffering, call it victim mentality mode? I know that we want to keep ourselves safe. That's like fundamental. That's why we're actually still here on this planet, because we're wired to make sure we're safe, make sure we're safe. Sometimes we overdo it. But why would we want to stay in that suffering mode?
Well, I think it fits very well with my addiction to suffering theory that we are actually all programmed to suffer by our early childhood trauma because we anchored into states that made us feel safe in the suffering. So if we felt unloved, unwanted, not good enough, we anchored into that feeling state. And then we developed all the thoughts and furthered the feelings, which turned into the behaviors to substantiate our own false narrative, our own beliefs that weren't even true. A lot of times it's the things that other people believe about us. They're not true either.
Hmm. So it sounds like it's back to square one. To keep us safe. Why do we suffer? Why do we stay there? Because it's comfortable. What's comfortable? Safe. And we do whatever we can, or the subconscious does whatever it can to build the buffers. What would that be? More evidence of the things that make us suffer, true or not. But it's, we got a little cushion there, a suffering cushion where it feels kind of safe. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And it's because it's familiar that it has become comfortable. So suffering drives familiarity.
Hmm. Yes. And yeah. All right. So what do we do about this?
Okay, the first step, take 100% responsibility for your life. Not just perspectives, perceptions, your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, everything. And understand that in many cases, you have actually made your own problems worse. Even if you didn't cause them, you contributed. And if you contributed to the problem, then you can help fix the problem. So I guess I want to just restate this, like you're never powerless.
Hmm. Probably the most important thing you're going to hear all week, all month. You're not powerless. You have more control than you ever think you have.
Right.
Hmm.
Always. We always have more control than we think. So the second step is challenge yourself. Ask yourself a simple group of questions. And this is powerful, just like last week's question, who are you if you aren't your wounds? That was a powerful question to ask. This week it's how do I want to feel? Is this how I want to feel? Are these the kind of thoughts that I want to have? Is this how I want to behave? And if you answer no, then go to the next step. Do you want to hear
Hmm.
the next step?
Very much so, because we know what the answers are to step two.
Okay, so step three, acknowledge that you and only you have to change your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. It's your responsibility, it's your sacred obligation, and it's within your right. You have the power to do this. You are the thinker of your thoughts. You're the feeler of your feelings. You are the doer of your behaviors. Nobody else can fix this problem but you.
This reminds me of a phrase I heard, and I shared it way back, probably episode 3 here. And I've retained this when you're in times of trouble and adversity. But I think it applies here. I am not my thoughts. I am not my feelings. I am safe in this moment. Back to what do we want to feel? Want to feel safe in this moment. But,
Right.
step three, um, you're thinking these thoughts, you're feeling these feelings. Is it really you? Is it really you? I think maybe that we need to ask that question.
That's a great question to ask because a lot of times you're actually thinking somebody else's thoughts. You're
Hmm.
feeling somebody else's feelings and you're behaving just like somebody else. Like it's not authentically you because your true nature is who you were meant to be when you had the spark of life in your mother's womb before you had any wounding or trauma or even conditioning.
Fair enough. um, it's one side of this sounds so clear, the other side could be so foreign for some, right? Unless you started thinking about this and why we think what we think. But any questions? Go back to the beginning of these podcasts because all the answers are right there. Step four, what does that bring us to?
Okay, step four, it really we have worked on throughout this podcast, which is building healthy neural pathways by consistently, that's the key word, consistently catching yourself in the act of self-harm, which means self-harming thoughts, feelings, or behaviors, apologize to yourself, and countering the offending thought, feeling, or behavior with an I deserve statement. So now we have talked a lot about this, but in case people haven't heard our previous episodes, I'll give an example. So let's say that you caught yourself saying something to yourself like, oh, that was a really stupid thing to do. Uh, I no big surprise that I just really screwed up again. Okay, well, that would be an act of violence against yourself. That is
Ooh.
self-harming. That is self-loathing, and we want to go to self-loving. Okay, so a self-loving thought that would directly counter this self-harming thought would be something like, and we always start with I deserve because we're building the neural pathways to deservingness. We would say, I deserve to feel good about myself right now. I deserve to feel like I have a lot to offer myself and other people. It's
Mm.
anything that counters the offending thought, feeling, or behavior. And you do that consistently every time you have a self-harming thought, feeling, or behavior.
The I deserve statement, powerful, right?
Very powerful. It changes everything because you can't just say, I am good enough, because your true nature will call BS on that because it's not in alignment with your current belief system. That's why when you say, I deserve to feel like I am good enough, that's when it gets through and you're building the neural pathways. And the more consistently you build these neural pathways, the more you will actually believe that you do deserve to feel good about yourself.
Have you noticed when you've done these exercises, and you have for quite some time, do you almost feel strong, like you have new muscles, empowered? I'm best way that I can describe it, but you just feel like da 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 da, like super Chris when you do that.
It feels like peace for me when I do that, when I stop buying into all of the stories and false narratives. And I
Mm,
just realize, oh, wait a minute, I have a choice in this matter.
mm.
That to me feels like peace. It's an empowering thought. It gives me a lot of calm. And then I can begin anew.
This is going to be an odd question, and I practice what you're saying here as much as I can. Game changer. There will be occasionally times where I'll make a mistake, an error. We all do, right? But many times I'll look at it and I'll just say, screwed that one up. And I'm laughing at it. I'm laughing at it. I'm not saying, you jerk, look what you did again in my mind. I actually look at it and say, well, I screwed that up. Oh, well. Is that okay? Or am I messing up the neural pathways by
Oh,
just,
no, it's great. It's
okay.
absolutely great. I mean, if you can laugh at yourself, you're halfway there, right? Because then that implies that you're not, critically judging yourself and you're lighthearted about it. Sure, I screw up all the time. I mean, we all do. And if we take ourselves so seriously, then we give ourselves this harsh verdict. We are the judge and the jury. Like we're the victim and the perpetrator. Like we
Mm.
have to break that cycle.
Yeah, instead of getting punished, by 50 lashes with the wet noodle, it's just I laugh it off and I forget about it 5 seconds later. It's just like, oh, screwed it up, whatever, and then it's done, and that's it. And it's almost comical in some ways, but
Mhm.
I never beat myself up anymore. I used to. I definitely
Right.
used to.
Well, I think that the reason that that works so well to just laugh at yourself is that you're building neural pathways to lightheartedness,
Mm,
to more self-trust. You're moving further away from self-judgment. You're moving closer to self-acceptance. And those are all important neural pathways and self-forgiveness as well.
yeah, I guess if I make a little error and I laugh it off genuinely, I guess I'm forgiving myself too at the same time because I'm laughing it off. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of times, they come in bundles of four: self-trust, self-acceptance, self-forgiveness, self-love are a nice bundle, and we should strive for that package.
Can you repeat those again because they all are so important?
Sure. Self-love, self-trust, self-acceptance, and self-forgiveness. Now,
Gotcha.
they were not in the same order, but yes,
Yeah.
those
Hmm.
four things. And you can have self-love that generally will lead to more self-trust and more self-acceptance,
For sure.
which will lead to more self-forgiveness.
So, are there more steps involved here?
Last step, stubbornly refuse to suffer. So let's get into the realm where you can choose whether to suffer or not. I mean, it's honestly your choice in many cases, okay? You can choose your vibe, you can choose whether or not to suffer. So it's up to you to protect your peace. If you don't, then you're giving into this gravitational pull to suffer. And I do believe suffering has a gravitational pull, so it does try to suck you in. And then that necessarily means that you are giving into this addiction to suffering. So I believe that your life is a gift. Everybody's life is a gift. And if you're going to make that gift count to the max, then you can't be a victim.
Hmm. I see this in a whole different light, Chris. And I got the peace thing. I started out today saying that I finally found peace and it was a game changer. And even when I thought that life was peaceful, I never really had peace within myself. Things were okay. There wasn't any, DEFCON 3, 5, whatever, and crazy stuff going on, but it wasn't true peace. And learning today, protecting your peace, I thought that that was protecting you from others taking your peace. It is. I
Right.
never considered it protecting your own peace from yourself, from all these things that we tell us and ourselves and all the suffering and everything. Never even entered my mind.
Yeah. Well, we are usually our own worst enemy. And so we can go to become our own best friend. So this is basically a call to action. Protect your peace at all costs.
Mm. It's so important. We don't realize it. And I guess you don't realize it again until you feel like you've arrived at that peace destination. And
Mhm.
when you have, things are so much better. Doesn't mean everything's perfect. Doesn't mean there's not going to be challenge, mistakes, this, that, the other, a little bit of suffering mixed in there. It's going to show up, but I feel like you have a better handle on all of that when you get that feeling of peace.
That's so true. And I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine from back east, a childhood friend that came to visit me a few weeks ago. It was right after the Choose Your Vibe episode, and I really felt badly that I didn't give her a shout out, but now's a good time because her name's Lee, and she has been diagnosed with cancer, and it's been in a couple different places, including her brain, and yet she has the best damn attitude. How does she do this? She's
Mm.
protecting her peace. How, so
Mm.
as you just pointed out, life doesn't have to be perfect. You can still protect your peace. So you could be a struggling, a struggling single parent and still work to protect your peace. You could be dying from cancer and still work to protect your peace. You could have just gotten fired from your job and still work to protect your peace. Like it gets hard when we're talking about extreme poverty. Then it's hard to protect your peace.
Yeah.
But for those of us who are listening to this podcast, we probably can afford to protect our own peace.
And it's something you can't put a value on.
Right.
And you could say, well, if I had more money, I'd have more peace. No, you won't.
That's so true. Money is not the answer to anything. In fact, I mean, is it nice to have the freedom to not worry about getting your basic needs met? Absolutely.
Sure.
But, there are a lot of wealthy, miserable people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't have to have money to protect your peace. It's free. And
Yeah.
I have to give a shout. I want to give another shout out to Sophie because she's the one that came up with this protect your peace thing. And it's brilliant. It changes everything.
It really does. And part of that lies in my thought in the last couple of months where I've been working on this, identifying those things that steal your power. Because today I realized the things that steal your power also take away your peace.
Bravo, Steve. Yes.
It only took 24
exactly.
podcasts to figure that out. But it's true. I mean, I started, I don't want to say eliminating people, but just looking at those that maybe too needy, take too much energy, not an equal exchange, all of that, and just kind of moving them a little bit to the side. And that, what does that leave? More room for you, more of you, where you can focus on you more, and take back your power and feel at peace. Thank you for all of the insight today. Very important. Very good. Yeah. This is what you do. How do we find you?
My website, chrisclearday.com, and I appreciate phone calls and texts. I do not love email. So give me a holler if you have some questions.
Yeah. If you email Chris, you're going to be disrupting her peace. Yes. Maybe. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no judgment. We all have our different ways of doing things, and it's all good. Awesome topic today. I think for many of us, this was an eye opener in many regards. Many regards. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Steve. Couldn't do this without you.
Likewise. And I'm going to say, I said at the beginning, I'm going to say it, but now I really am going to mean it. Peace be with you.
And peace be with you.
And everybody else. We'll catch up next time. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.